Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are having a fantastic day. So today's video is about the La Nina discussion, if you will, the Enzo outlook, and a brief talk about what we could be expecting this winter. Now the title reads something like, I haven't decided on yet, but I think I have a vague idea of what I'll put. Why this upcoming winter may be very cold, snowy, and there's just more growing confidence for that. And just bear with me, I know that I was wrong last year when I did a couple of these videos, but I will show you the evidence, and hopefully you could see with me what I'm talking about. And it's just a lot of interesting stuff. This year is very interesting for the winter. It's looking exciting for sure. So if you guys would like to subscribe to this channel, if you're new to this channel and you're first seeing this, obviously don't just subscribe for the reason of subscribing, but check out the channel. We are a weather fan page. We love the weather. We have weather enthusiasts, and consider joining if you would like. Check out the channel. And if you're liking what you're seeing, consider liking the videos. That really helps out a lot, so thank you for that. So first off, let's start looking at the Enzo outlook and what the Climate Prediction Center has to say about this. So notice right now, we're getting close to a La Nina. Okay, we're still not in a La Nina, but we are definitely getting close. And we may already be in a La Nina, except it's still not updated by the Climate Prediction Center. So really, we started off the year as an El Nino, went into a neutral, and are most likely going to end up in the La Nina. So we got basically all three of the possibilities in 1 year. So it's definitely been interesting, and that will prove very important later on in the video. So keep that in mind. Notice, updated the 13th of August, so a few days, really a couple of weeks ago, you can see La Nina's favored, 55% chance around beginning in August through October, and that is a wide range, but honestly, I think it will develop sometime during the first half of September, if it already hasn't. And you can see it continuing through the Northern Hemisphere winter 2020-2021. If you were to look, I apologize about that. That was a bit of a misclick. You can see this is what the bar graph reads, and you can see that the highest chance, they have the highest confidence, 60% chance across November, December, and October, and really the neutral then starts to rise. The possibility of a neutral and an El Nino slightly, but one thing we could say for sure is that there's not going to be an El Nino this winter. What I can't say for sure is there may be a neutral towards the end of the year, or towards the end of this winter. Come February and March, we may transition into a neutral pattern. However, it looks as if La Nina may be dominating throughout most of the winter. That's that's kind of another possibility. Now notice that these models, this is one group of models, right? So this isn't all the models that are possible in the whole Climate Prediction Center, I guess, outlook or group. You can see this is just one set, and some of them are really showing a increase towards a neutral and even possible towards an El Nino. Really, those are far and few between. Most are showing a La Nina borderlining with a neutral. You can see borderline or weak La Nina, and it's just really close. I mean, it's just a really tough call. It could be like a -0.6, -0.7, just a very close call with these models. You can see only one model is showing going down almost to -2, a La Nina. That would be insane, but that's really just, I think that's the NASA GMAO model. That's just one model, but you can see these models are definitely showing a pretty good chance of La Nina, though it definitely is a pretty borderline. Now, if you were to look at the different set of models, you can see they're for the same region, so they're just a different set of models. You can see that they already are showing that we are in a La Nina, and that if we're not in La Nina, then the majority of the models are taking us into the La Nina level. And actually, the average is at least at -1, which is a moderate to almost a strong La Nina, and then it takes us out of it pretty rapidly. But notice only really a few models are showing a neutral, versus this where only a few are showing an El Nino. Here there's only a few showing a neutral, the rest are showing a La Nina. So definitely a bit more confidence towards a La Nina. Now, you may be wondering, what does all this stuff mean? What is all this garbage? Well, it's not garbage, if you will. Let's take a look at this little map right here. Hopefully you can see that. Actually, I'll pull up a larger map of this. So the El Nino, La Nina discussion stuff, this is all based off this little region, not really little, it's a large region across the central Pacific Ocean. Okay, now this is the Pacific Ocean, okay, and this is the Atlantic Ocean. Here we have the Indian Ocean, okay, and then here we have the Southern Ocean, okay, and up here we have the Arctic Ocean. And This is definitely the region that we're most interested in. And whether or not these colors or these temperatures, if you will, are below average, a La Nina, above average, an El Nino, or neither, or neutral, really has a big impact on the weather in the United States. And you can see that as of right now, we have a lot of this blue color, which indicates a below average sea surface temperature. Now, it's definitely in the negatives, but in order for there to be a La Nina, it needs to be at a certain level, a negative 0.5 or lower. And the Climate Prediction Center is saying that we are still not quite at that, but we may be approaching that very soon. And you can see this is what kind of matters, and this plays a large role across Australia, the South Pacific, the East Asia, South Pacific, Eastern Pacific right here, well, Western Pacific, depends from which aspect you view it from, and into a lot of Eastern Asia. And then also we have quite a bit, or Western Asia, Eastern Asia. Again, depends on which way you view it. And then it also has an impact on the United States and South America a lot. So let's take a look at some of these impacts. So you can see a typical La Nina pattern during the winter looks something like this. We have a cold air mass to the north and northwest and across much of Canada into Alaska, the northwest, right? The rest of the United States is, you can see a lot of it's white, so it could go kind of either way, which it could, depending not even on a La Nina strength or anything. There's so many other factors that this could be based off of. And sometimes this cold air could spill in as far as, Chicago, Indiana. Not just cold, but like sustained below average. We've seen many different La Nina years, if you will, but notice that we also see drier and warmer towards the south. That tends to be the trend. Generally, a colder winter towards the north and a warmer winter towards the south. And yes, that may seem like absolute no-brainer, but we're talking about averages, because there's been winters before where it's been warmer across the north and colder across the south in terms of, compared to average. This year, it seems if it's going to be below average across the north and above average across the south. And you can see kind of the northeast is interesting. Wet conditions, warm conditions, a bit of cold conditions coming in, so definitely a bit of a mix-up. And we could be looking at quite a few of some storm systems, so definitely a bit exciting. But I wanted to take this a bit further, not just base this video title off of the fact that we have a La Nina. So what I did a pretty long time ago, actually, and I just kind of been improving on that ever since. What I looked at is all the ENSO years, and like we have right here, I found a chart that goes back to 1950. Clicked right there, and I looked at years that will be similar to this year. And it is a bit of a gamble, since I don't know how the end of the year will end up, but at least we know the first 3/4, the first 2/3, if you will. Notice that we had an El Nino, a neutral, and a La Nina, and that's what I was talking about. This is very important, and I'll tell you why it's important. Because, a regular La Nina is just a bit too not specific, if you will. We've had many La Ninas in the past, and they've all had various strengths. I mean, you can see 2018 right here. We had 2017. We had a La Nina, but I didn't just choose those years. I chose years that were very similar in pattern to 2020. We started off with an El Nino, neutral, and transitioned into a La Nina. So the first year that we get is right here, 2016, 2017. Now, you may be looking at this and saying, why didn't you use it? Well, I didn't really use this year because of the fact that you could see it started off at a record-breaking El Nino, and I just did not want to use that year because that would skew it up. And this year, you could see it was a borderline El Nino. I would go, anything up to 1.5, 1.3, but just the record El Nino, the one that's been highest ever recorded, I didn't want to incorporate that in, even though it did follow the trend. So the first year I used was the 2010-2011. You could see El Nino, neutral, and then La Nina. The La Nina developed a bit earlier, but it's almost impossible to find an exact year that's exactly like 2020. And that's the first year I used, 2010, 2011. The next year I used was 27 to 28. Not 28, 29. It's not on here, but I basically went back all the way to 1950 and just chose years that were similar, right? And what I found was very, very exciting information. So basically what I did is looked at all the years. I found, these are the years, by the way, 2010, 2007, 2005. There's only a few in the past 100 or 70 years that were similar to this year. And what I wanted to see is whether or not they were comparable in the weather that we had this year. If you recall, we had a very warm August, so I wanted to look at, August is still not over, right? Okay, but it's basically coming to an end, and we could firmly state it's been warm. Notice what we had in all these years. Very, very hot August. A bit of cool to the northwest and the south. Overall, though, a very warm August. Let's see what the composite anomaly looked like for this August. You can see a bit different. The warmth is a bit more scattered, but you can see that we have a cold feature to the north and west, a bit more limited, but we just have heat just around everywhere, excluding portions of the Midwest here, southern plains really, where we had a bit of a cool down, but generally very similar. We had a warm August. It looks as if it was a warm August in all these years as well. Now, I did not stop there. I went a bit further. I want to show you this slide presentation, and I just won't go to present mode because I'd have to readjust the recording area. But what I want to show you is the fall of all those La Nina years, or all those years that were similar. So, you know, we went from a El Nino neutral into a La Nina. And you could see that it was very warm. The fall looked very warm, and that is what I think will be this year. I think this year's fall will be very warm, and that's what most other organizations think. You know, NOAA, Weather Channel, AccuWeather. I think lots of the fall will be occupied by warm temperatures. And then you can see, in terms of precipitation, it was all over the place. Generally a bit wetter towards the north, a bit drier towards the south. Kind of, to do with the La Nina. Now, I also wanted to look at July of all these years. And if you recall, July was very, very hot this year, looking very similar to August. Again, we had a very hot July of all these years. So, you know, these years had very similar weather to what we had this year. I did not stop there, however. I wanted to look now at the winter. Just because the fall was warm doesn't mean that the winter was, right? Or at least that's what I thought. And I was right. You can see November through March of all the same years, just a year ahead because the new year came in December. Lots of cold to the north and northwest and northern United States, and a bit of warmth to the south and the east coast. But then again, you know, this is just exciting. When we see these contrasts, we could see large storms forming, large storms developing, and these contrasts often form a baroclinic zone, which is a whole different type of talking point. But, you know, it's interesting to see that the years that are similar to this year had a very similar weather, and the winters that followed were just downright cold. And you could see that most of the north and northwestern United States was just simply cold. And that is definitely very interesting to point out. Now, I want to look at one last thing here quickly. These are images. You can see that are, again, the years that I chose earlier. And I just want to, these are a little bit different. You can see that the July, again, I already showed you that very warm July. That's what happened this year. And this is what the winter looked like of those months. You can see very similar. And I think okay, yeah, this is what I wanted to show you. The precipitation outlook of all those years. You could see it was very wet across the northwest and really much of the northern United States, and drier across the south. So these years just really, truly rang true. And yes, these were all La Ninas, but they weren't all the La Ninas that ever occurred, if you will. They were only a select few that were that I selected that were very similar to this year. And, you know, originally I was just doing this research for my own fun of it because I wanted to see what these years would result in. And I honestly wasn't expecting such a strong pattern that would erupt with all these years being potentially cold and snowy across the north, with a bit drier and warmth across the south, but definitely not excluding the south, as some of that cold air could definitely filter in at times. And, you know, each year is different. This is kind of just a composite of all those years. And then this is another thing. I wanted to see what those years, all those years, what their spring looked like. If you recall, this year's spring, April and May were very chilly, and you could see it was cold. So just remarkable pattern. It's just, you know, something you can't ignore. And that's why I think this winter has just real potential to be cold and snowy, and just a lot of fun stuff maybe headed our way. So definitely amazing stuff and exciting stuff, and may or may not be right, but this is just for the fun of it, and I want to talk about this. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. See ya. Bye.